Good evening and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, January the 21st, 6 p.m., 2020. The regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Trinidad will now come to order. Mr. Williamson, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 1, roll call please.
Goodall,
Here.
Griego, here. Matei,
Here.
Ogletree, Shu,
Here.
Williamson,
Here.
Rico.
Here. Item 2, approval of the agenda. Does council have any changes? If not, could I have a motion please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay, call a vote.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego, yes. Matei,
Yes.
Shu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item 3, policy items and staff reports. We have anything, Mike? No? Okay. Item 4, petitions or communications, oral or written. Do you have anything? Brad Kirby? And please keep in mind you have 5 minutes for presentation.
Okay. Good morning, or good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I'm here, let me
Could
change
you
hats here.
please take that off?
Okay. Just for a second.
Go on, okay.
You saw it there. So I'm trying to get more parades in this town. Not just because I like parades and everybody else in this town loves parades, I hear. But I think it's a tourist trap. I think that tourism, they come in, they see the nice fun we're having a parade every other weekend, they like it and they want to come back. So I've applied with Marty. A good 5 or 6 more parades than we already have. I'm working with existing parades and working around them, not knocking them off. I'm just actually trying to add to what we have already. So to start with, like I did last year, at St. Patrick's Day Parade in March. This year a little different also in April. I kind of want to get going one a month until May or June, and every other week. In April, I like the Easter parade. I talked to some of the churches already in town. They're excited about doing Easter parade. Then the Cinco de Mayo parade. I've already talked to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and they're interested in doing a Cinco de Mayo parade, ending up at the Birdcage for their little festival we have. We have the Armed Forces Day parade already. After that, May 30th, the Schools Out parade. Get the kids involved, and get the kids to put on a parade for all the schools around. And then we have our Santa Fe Trail Days, but they won't let me have a parade. It's okay. And then a summer parade, June 20th. And then we have all the other parades, RLK parade and all the normal parades that we normally have. But I just want a few extra parades in there. So we're doing one every other week. And so not a big parade like the Armed Forces Parade, more of a small parade like St. Patrick's Day Parade. We only had 50 to 100 people, somewhere around there. And so somehow we can maybe alleviate or waive some of the waivers of the parade fees that we might incur, or the insurance, because it's just a small parade, it's not going to be any elaborate floats or anything. And so I just wanted to get this town a little bit more involved in doing parades, and I wanted to ask y'all's opinion as well. So this is why I'm up here, and I've got with Marty. So we've already got the application for the St. Patrick's Day Parade. I got all the other applications ready to go for all the other ones, and wish me luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you very much.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jay Gonzalez?
Make sure I don't run over on time, friends, so forgive me.
Oh, we'll make sure that don't happen.
Friends, my name is Jay Gonzalez. I'm a business owner here. I'm the owner of the Los Animas Grill. I'm also own another business. We own the Honey Hat Farm out in Honey, Colorado. We grow CBD out there. And what I come to talk to you about before today, more of some questions that I have. But I wanted to talk about the recent FBI statistical rates of the crime that's happening per capita here in Trinidad. And as somebody who's on the corner of Commercial and Cedar, I get to see it firsthand. I get to see it every day when I walk, when I come into work in the morning. I get to see it through my windows all day long, and it's really disheartening as a business owner of what is before us and what we see on a daily occasion. And part of this I wanted to talk a little bit about homelessness, but it's really about crime. It's really about crime in our community, and it's really about what we're going to do about it, and what you guys are going to do about it to help stem the systemic crime problems that we have here in our community. We have, a recidivism rate here in this town that marvels just about every other major metropolis. We are with every major city in crimes per capita, from robbery, assault, drinking and driving. We are in the highest of every single one of those categories per capita. And my question to you, Mr. Matei, Ms. Griegos, Mr. Shu, Mr. Rico, Mr. Goodall, Mr. Williamson, is what is the plan? What is the plan for our community? What is your commitment to our citizens that we're not in the top 10 list of most dangerous places to live in the state of Colorado? And what can we do to change? Because as a business owner, it's very disheartening for me to have my father-in-law call from Greeley and say, Jade, have you seen these statistical rates? And I don't really have an answer for them. And as a father here, it's very disheartening to me as well to not feel as if we have a safe place for our children in our parks. That we don't have a safe place for our children on our water, along our waterway, which is absolutely precious and beautiful. Trinidad is an absolute gem. I came down here because I saw the future for my family, someplace that I wanted to put roots down and build a legacy for my family to come to for generations to come. I'm looking for guidance from you guys to help foster that. We have so many wonderful things happening in our community right now. From Fisher's Peak, to the Space to Create, to all the wonderful things that are going to be happening this summer with all the programs, and how the Trinidadian Blues Fest has broken it up to bring more people in per month. But what are we bringing them in to show them? We're bringing them in to show them that we just have complete rampant disarray, drug abuse and drug use on our corners, needles at our parks and in our waterways. When I say to my friends who normally go up to Summit County to go fishing, come down here. Nobody fishes down here. You have pickup spots. It's gorgeous down here, and you won't see anybody else. And the report back to me was, Jay, I got a big old trout. But I had to wade through syringes and other garbage and have other homeless people come up to me and ask me for money while I'm standing in the middle of the river. And this doesn't make people want to come back. This definitely doesn't want to make people spend money. And it's even harder for me to convince people that I tell them that this is an amazing place. An amazing place that what you have going on in the Front Range pales in comparison to what we have here. I wore a sweater tonight. It comes from upriver. And on my sweater it says God's Country. And I bought that because that's the way I felt when I moved here to Trinidad. I felt that this was a very, very special place. Special enough that we could leave our entire life that we had up here to come down and make a chance at a new life down here in Trinidad. And I want that new life in Trinidad to be a safe life. I want my kids to graduate from Trinidad High School. And I want them to go off to college, if not stay here for college. And I want them to be able to come back. So many brothers and sisters here of Trinidad have gone and left because there just isn't any opportunity for them, or they don't feel that it's a safe place to raise their family. I'd like to change that. I'd like you guys to help me change that. I will do whatever I possibly can as a citizen to make sure my block is safe. I put myself.
5 minutes, Mr. Gonzalez. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Mayor Rico, we sat in the county commissioners meeting together. And at that county commissioners meeting, several people talked about the drugs and alcohol that has been rampant in their family. And in that meeting, you said that you didn't know what you could do to curb the drug problem that we have here in this community. Do you truly believe that, or can we change something to make something better for Trinidad?
I'll make one comment, is that, we do have to address it, and it is being addressed, and I know that, some of the, I do know that the police chief actually is getting me some current information on the crime statistics, local, current ones.
Yes, sir.
I've seen some crime statistics, I think you mentioned that your father, mentioned, which are 2017 or 18, I'm not sure if that's correct or not. But it is something that we do need to address, and, in order to, make this community a good place to live. And, I'm sure that we as a council, will work with the police chief and sheriff's department to try to, city manager, see what we can do.
Absolutely. And if
And
there's.
and I think the one thing that I probably mentioned was, it's not that I mentioned that, and I may be wrong, that we couldn't do anything about the crime. We can't do anything really about homelessness. That weren't, as far as, there are certain things that we cannot do. And that's constitutional, from the Constitution, so.
It's not, I know we usually don't comment in this
Right.
part, but I think it's important to point out, we have taken measures this year, first time in close to 20 years, we added 3 new police officers to the force. We're taking steps, working it into the budget, and trying to take steps to make a difference, and I think we're headed in the right direction.
Mr. Goodall, I don't think that the police chief, that the police are doing a bad job whatsoever.
Right.
I think they're doing the best they can with the resources that they have. I feel that the charter does not serve them well enough in order for them to enforce what we need to them to enforce in this community in order to make our city safe.
Mr. Rico, may I comment then?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez, as a candidate for this election, this was a major concern for almost everyone I spoke to. So it's first and foremost on my mind for sure. But that being said, as a business owner, do you see actual impact on your business due to specifically crime?
Yes. I also, above the Los Angeles Grill, I run an Airbnb in Cedar Street Lofts. And I have had 3 instances to where either something was stolen out of the back of one of my tenants' vehicles. I've had 2 tenants actually get up, pack up, and leave because they felt unsafe in our area on the corner of Cedar.
Let's go ahead, and
and
I'll
Commercial
tell you what
Street.
we're gonna do. Mike, let's put this down as possible work session, and we will invite the public in, or invite Mr. Gonzalez in especially, where we can sit down and have a good discussion in the future. How's that sound?
Thank you so much for hearing me and listening to me and for listening to my concerns. I know that you have your hands full with everything that the city is going through. I just really want, as a business owner, to put our best foot forward, not just for me and my business, but for the city as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Turn. to item 5, consent agenda. Approval of the regular meeting minutes of January the 7th, 2020. Item B, new hotel and restaurant liquor license application filed by Sylvie Incorporated, doing business as the Cafe at 135 East Main Street, set for public hearing on March the 3rd, 2020 at 6 p.m. and the tentative neighborhood boundary as the city's corporate limits. Jody Van Buskirk, are you in the audience? Thank you very much. Item C, reappointment of Edward Grego to the Urban Renewal Authority Board. Item D, I see Mr. Grego is here. Item D, reappointment of Charles Smith to the Board of Building and Code Appeals. Mr. Smith, Chuck's here. Item E, approval of the bills for $2,475,806.10. Item F, approval of payroll, January 11th, 2020 through January the 24th, 2020 for $324,473.47. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Call vote, please.
Goodall,
Yes.
Grego,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Shu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item 6, public hearings, we have none. Item 7, unfinished business, we have none. Item 8, miscellaneous business. 8A, council member liaison appointments to the Urban Forestry Board, Library Board, Historic Main Street Board, Space to Create Commons Oversight Board. So I know that when Brian brought this up at the last work session, and a couple of items that I do believe that somebody has volunteered already. For the Space Create Commons Oversight Board, Councilwoman Ogletree has recommended, of course, she was on the board of directors, of course, she's gone off now, but she would like to stay on there as the liaison, so if that's okay. So the ones that are open, of course, is we need someone on the urban forestry. Do we have someone from council who would like to be on the urban forestry? Urban forestry is, of course, that's the tree board that we have here in Trinidad.
Oh, that's the, yeah, I was familiar when they started.
Would you like to take that liaison position?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're absolutely.
The next one is the library board. Anybody would like to be on the library board?
All volunteer.
And the Historic Main Street Board.
I'm on there.
You're on there, Rick. Okay, so that's, like I mentioned earlier, that the Space to Create Oversight, Commons Oversight, Ms. Ogletree.
Mm.
So we have Urban Forestry, Mr. Frank Shu, Library Board, Mr. Williamson, Historic Main Street, Ms. Grego, Space to Create Commons Oversight Board, Councilwoman Ogletree. Could I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved. No, right ahead, I'll do the second.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Discussion from council? Okay, call vote, please.
Goodall,
Yes.
Grego,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Shu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item 8B, appointment to the Partnership for a Drug-Free Community. That was another one that Mrs. Ogletree has, even though it's not a regular liaison appointment that we have. But that is an organization, and I think that kind of goes with what Mr. Gonzalez was talking about. That's something that has been working for a couple of years now. And she has raised her hand and said she would like to be appointed to that position. So with that, could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion on that? Call vote, please.
Goodall,
Yes.
Grego,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Shu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item 8C, consideration of appointment of Julie Morris to the Planning, Zoning, and Variance Commission. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Mrs. Morris, are you in the audience? Okay. Any discussion on that?
what qualifies her to sit on that board?
Tell you what, Ms. Morris, why don't you come forward and tell us your qualification, please? I read it and it's quite extensive, but please give us an update.
My name's Julie Morris. I have no experience on planning, zoning, or variance. However, in my former life, I was on various boards, the State Board of Health, State Board of Public Health, many other different commissions and boards. I'm willing to put in the time and effort and learn it from the pros who are already there.
I don't need to be challenging when I ask, but that's one of the few boards that has decision-making
I
authority
understand that.
over a number of things, and generally speaking, I think that youth and vigor will overcome age and treachery at any time, so you're welcome as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. I'm hoping also, like Mr. Gonzalez, I think this is a wonderful place and hope that it will grow and prosper.
Well, you will firsthand experience those propositions for growth
Yes,
that need approval from the city to some
Absolutely.
extent.
absolutely.
So it's not, it's a little bit more complicated than some of the other boards. Just
I'm
to
willing to
have
put
you
in
be
the time
aware,
and effort.
I make that observation only so that you are aware of the magnitude of your commitment.
Yes, sir. I have tried to read the city code on my telephone, and it's quite extensive, so,
Okay.
yes.
You're taking the time.
Thank you.
Ms. Morris, have-
I just wanna ask you a
Yes, ma'am.
question. Have you gone to any of the meetings?
No, ma'am.
Isn't that a prerequisite, and shouldn't the board approve her? I thought that was a
No, it's not
decision.
the decision that we talked
I
about.
did go to the meeting last week that they had.
They
The
did.
planning commission last week.
They did better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I've been and spoke with them. And they told me I didn't have to have any, construction experience, et cetera, but that it was a very, tedious job and
It is. And the only reason why we're asking is because I've been in a position where planning and zoning was made and integral decisions as far as an organization I belong to, and it's very important. So thank you.
you're very welcome.
We're not pinpointing you.
No, that's where I come from, to here. I sat on that for a while and part of the, helping with the comprehensive plan. Plan on a lot of reading. You got a comprehensive plan, we're fixing to go into codes approval and a lot of stuff going on. So it is one of the, our only other quasi judicial board. And you determine people's land rights. And so take it with the responsibility it deserves. Good luck.
Thank you.
On the 14th, just about a week ago, not only did you attend that meeting, but you were interviewed apparently.
Yes.
Do you recall that?
I do.
Can you speak to that?
Again, I spoke with the fellows that were there. They assured me that though I had no construction or architectural experience, et cetera, that if I were willing to study up and learn from them, that it was something that needed to be done, and if I was willing to do it, they'd be willing to help me.
Okay.
You know, just like everyone else that's spoken here, it is quite an intense, board that we have. And so the amount of reading, and there will be, I think, trainings that you'll be eligible to attend.
I hope so.
And of course, some of the people that have been on there a long time, you know, listen to them, get the guidance,
Yes.
and I think you'll be fine. It's just a matter of just your willingness. It sounds like if you've been on some of the other boards that we talked about, I think you should do okay.
Maybe, before we discharge her, could you read that and consider that? It may influence our decision now.
Okay, it says here, Ms. Garrett, the Plan and Zoning Variance Commission interviewed Ms. Julie Morris at their meeting on January 14, 2020 in regard to her interest in serving on the commission. Following the interview, the commissions passed a motion to recommend Ms. Morris to the City Council for placement on the commission. Please schedule time for Ms. Morris to appear before the council for final determination in this matter. Thank you. Georgianne Clark, Planning Administrator. And that's where we are at tonight. All right, thank you very much. Call vote, please.
Here you go.
Sleep it for well.
Goodall.
Yes.
Griego.
Yes.
Matei.
Based primarily on a recommendation of those who interviewed her, who presently sit on that board, I vote yes.
Shu.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item D, consideration of appointment Chad Kraft to the Arts and Cultures Advisory Commission. Chad, are you in the audience? Yes, he is. I also read, and I'm sure council read some of his resume that he had. It looks like you had a lot of experience in this area, and I think that would be welcome. I think Mr. Matei is actually on that Arts and Cultures as he is.
I have been, yes.
Has he been to any of the?
Not recent, neither have I, so. In all honesty, he's probably doing a better job of attending than I am. Point being that, you know, it doesn't have the decision-making capabilities as does the prior discussion, but nonetheless, it's valuable to the direction we are taking in the city, understanding that the decisions that they do make are recommendations to council before money gets spent.
Very true. Okay. Could I have a motion, please?
I will make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion, Ms. Graydon?
No, sir.
Mr. Shu?
No.
No.
No? Okay. Call vote, please.
Goodall.
Yes.
Griego.
Yes.
Matei.
Yes?
Shu.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item E, annual report and request to attach to the common consumption area of the Trinidad Entertainment District Incorporated. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Mike, do you have anything on that?
I do not.
Okay. Just for, well, let's go through, did Mr.
What
Matei have any
are
questions?
we apparently attempting to extend?
There's gonna be one added, entity that's getting into this entertainment district as well. But it's also their annual report of what they've done and where they're going with this. And let me read this, maybe it'll kind of clarify some stuff.
Would you please?
Okay, what it does, it will involve the Trinidad Main Street Development doing business as Moose's Social Club and Martini Bar at 308 West Main Street. These are the people that are going to do it. Bricks Incorporated at 231 East Main Street. Bella Luna is doing business as Bella Luna Pizzeria, 121 West Main Street. And the new addition, which is the Trinidad Smokehouse LLC at 225 West Main Street. They have, at this point in time, we're wanting to have 5 events during the summer. One is going to be the Purgatory River Bike and Car Show, June the 6th. The Trinidadio Americana Music Fest, June the 27th. Then there's the Trinidad Latin Fest, July the 25th. Trinidadio Blues Fest and Blues Fest, Pre-Fest and the Blues Fest, August 28th and 29th. And Arlocade, September the 12th. So those are the main items that I read as to their annual report and what they're planning on doing this year. Does that kind of clarify some of the information?
It does, it's gonna be a busy summer, that was multiple parades, it could be very, very energetic. I think that it's important as we make these decisions, that we include the resources of the police department to the point that Mr. Gonzalez makes. Parades necessarily mean blocking streets and officers being on duty to regulate traffic during those events. These kinds of episodes that we're talking about would likewise impinge the resources of the police department. And I would feel more comfortable being able to make a proper decision once we have comments from the police department who have an integral role to play in all of these events. It's not like you hire a babysitter and tell them, well, order them a pizza and they'll be fine. It doesn't work that way.
I think there's something in there that they have security for the smaller events and stuff.
Yeah,
I
Where I
think
read it there. Yeah, each
organization.
Right, and they
has
check
to
with the
do that.
DPs.
Right.
Mike, one question, there's a map here of the entertainment area there.
Yes.
But basically, the only area that's gonna be used is the Main Street commercial area, right? Because you
For
got
the
them all
most
way
part,
down
but
here
this,
to the
this
purple
map
post.
shows the district.
Yeah, that's
the
what I was
area.
asking, so.
To include those businesses.
Ms. Carrick sounds like she might have some additional information.
Just a few comments. So, that's correct, that entire boundary is the entertainment district. The group hasn't had any events except for the ones on Main Street thus far. That doesn't mean that going forward that there can't be events in other locations. As far as the police involvement, Marty Hackett as our entertainment,
Event planner?
event planner, thank you. Organizes meetings with all of the relevant staff prior to any of these events happening. We get all of the details, we know who's working security, we know we have the proper insurance in place prior to the events. And so, for instance, most recently, we had a meeting regarding the car show that they're planning next year. It's planned to be a rather large car show, and fortunately, those people have already done a lot of planning, and they wanted to get their approvals in place early so that they know whether or not they can invite, you know, numerous people to it, or if it's gotta be limited. The police department, obviously, they do their very best, and in some instances, if they are short on resources, they would certainly tell the organizers that they have to get additional security in place.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Okay, thank you. Ms. Rigo, do you have any questions?
Well, I'm looking at this map, and I have a question, because the gentlemen from Redneck are gonna now be Trinidad Smokehouse. So does that facility remain in the district, even though there's not gonna be a liquor license at that?
No.
There is a liquor license, that's the liquor license you, maybe I'm not understanding.
No, the old location, you're
Oh,
referring to the old
Right,
location.
I got you.
Okay.
Good question. I would say that Ms. Garrett will answer.
so the boundary that's laid out is the boundary, regardless of whether or not there's a licensed facility
Okay.
there or not for the time being. Say for instance, that location were to get a liquor license in the future, they would already be in the boundary.
Okay.
I'll give you another for instance, so there's some that'll come and go. Teasmade Treatment decided they didn't want to participate in the district this year. So
Okay.
they're not on there. We have additional licenses in the district that aren't currently participating.
So you answered my question, because the Purple Toad's in the district, but they're not participating.
We haven't had any events that go down that far. That's a true statement. So, and they aren't participating. So to be a part of the district, they have to have, one of their owners on the board of the district.
Okay.
And so, Purple Toad hasn't approached the city or the district itself to join at this point.
Okay.
Again, that doesn't mean that they won't in the future, so.
One more question. Okay, so Miss Van Busker is back there, and assuming that she gets her liquor license, is there any vehicle or procedure to add her to this after tonight's meeting,
Yes.
if she wants to participate?
She would put in, if you'll, in the packet, you'll see where Redneck Smokehouse, now I'm getting myself confused, Trinidad Smokehouse LLC made a formal request to the district. They voted on it and then forwarded their recommendation to city council, or their request to city
Okay.
council for your vote to add.
All right.
I had two questions.
Wait, we go down the road here now. That's why they sit you right here. So when,
Wait,
Oh,
Mr. Shu.
okay. Well, he asked questions ahead of you, but I didn't correct him.
Go ahead.
So, just to answer a couple of questions, when me and Audra and Gabe sat down and started forming the entertainment district, we tried to take boundaries out and form that, so as growth comes, it would already be formed and we wouldn't have to change that. Districts, there's a lot of places not being used, but we set it up big enough that there's room to expand. We utilize also, having utilized the entertainment district with the Blues Fest, when we do the police, we utilize the Citizens Academy a lot, so we only need a couple of officers and filter in the rest with Citizens Academy graduates to help out along with security provided for the organization. So I didn't know if that would help clear up anything, but we tried to set it up when me and Audrey and Gabe was doing this or was it was it Gabe? Yeah,
It was
the
Gabe,
first
yeah.
year was, so we tried to have foresight into expansion and growth and making it where this would function pretty well. I hope that helps. That's the only comment I have. And when they come in, even though that map's big, when you bring your application in, there has to be an outline of exactly where it's gonna be, which businesses will be participating, every road, everything on the map that's provided with the application that comes in for the event. So, yeah, they'll draw it out much more in detail.
Mr. Williamson, you're on.
Is it my turn? What mechanism is there in place for, say, businesses that are affected by these, events that are set up to have input? Say if they're not directly participating, but they're being affected by street closures?
That is a good question. Mechanism in place. You know, to be honest, we haven't had a whole lot of complaints about them. Obviously, the businesses are always encouraged to keep their doors open during these events because business is concentrated in those areas at that time.
Right.
I mean, couldn't they show up at the meeting right now before approval and speak?
absolutely.
I mean, this is their avenue, is right here at this meeting upon approval to speak against.
And I can tell you, for instance, the car show folks were gonna go down and visit with the businesses too.
Oh, that, yeah, that.
So, I mean, I think some of it's just being good neighbors to the businesses
Sure.
and.
Okay. And then I had a further question. For a particular event, what criteria determines how much security there's going to be, and is that criteria able to be viewed?
That's probably a good question for our police chief, or the captain. A lot of times, I know that some of the things that they look at, for instance, are what they expect the crowd to be. And I'll tell you, a lot of it is, I think, similar to what the insurance looks at too. What kind of music is going to be played? How many people are gonna be there? Are the streets open or closed? And with the entertainment district events, they're always closed, it's a requirement.
How late it goes, the hours of
Hours of
operation
operation.
plays into that also.
What type of event it is. There's just a lot of factors that kind of parallel what the insurance looks at too, because then the insurance is going to rate the risk as well.
Okay, so all those factors are considered.
All of those factors are considered.
I'm sure it's the case, but I wanted to verify if outside security is required, if the event itself is responsible for that additional cost.
That's correct.
That's all the
Good questions.
Yeah.
You know, the entertainment district was developed to be able to offer something different to the community, to offer and to show that we are open for additional activities in the community. And the last couple of times, the activities that have been held there have been well received by the public. There haven't been any problems that I have heard about in talking to the police chief. You know, the boundaries are set, I believe, properly for, like you mentioned, to allow for expansion and for any of the businesses that sell liquor in those areas to be able to raise their hands and say, you know, we want to be part of this. And so I believe that we have something in place that serves the community very well at this point in time. And like I said, I know at the Blues Fest, it was pretty nice. And even the
Close to
Arcade-
3,000 people this
And the
last year.
Arcade, so
And Arcade, yeah.
I think it's been well received by the community. I know I've been down there, I've enjoyed it. So, thank you.
But a collateral thought, it would be interesting to note on those previous events that have occurred, I'm sure there were statistics maintained locally on criminal activity that occurred during the time period of those events. And it might be healthy and helpful to have that information available for the work session to address Mr. Gonzalez's concern about, okay, well, this is what happens during a critical episode, or not critical, particular episode, where we're having a lot, 3,000 people in the confines of 3 blocks in each direction from Main Street.
I'm
And
We
it
can
would be
come back
helpful.
in front of us.
You know that, I think.
When they pull it from. This is just.
Any other questions?
I have
Another question?
I have one further question, I apologize. Because I'm new to this and I don't quite understand, if we need to make an amendment or change to this, how is that accomplished?
What we do is, we bring that up, probably as a change, and we'll go through it and get with Audra. And if you have any recommendations, if you got any thoughts, bring them to Mike, and then we'll run it by Audra and see what we have to do as far as whether it's an ordinance, resolution, or just amendment to the ordinance.
Just doesn't the permit come back up before each event, once they fill it out? This is it? Okay.
So any changes that you think you might want, you'll bring it up, talk to Mike, and then go through the process. There's no further discussion, call vote please.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego. Yes. Matei,
Yes.
Shu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item F, extraterritorial water tap, a 2-inch, request by Gary Ringo and Laura Ayala Ringo at 2620 Monte Vista Street. Motion? Second?
Second.
Mike, what, can you explain? I have a lot of questions myself, but,
Sure.
what can you give us?
Well, Mayor, members of council, thank you. This request came in, well, Gary came into the office and said, I purchased a piece of property, and on the deed it says I have 5 3/4-inch taps and a 4-inch tap. Well, this property is
Is it
just.
5 or 6, whatever, I thought it was 6.
There was 6, and then long as deeds transferred, it went to 5. Those taps were granted, as part of a purchase of the land where we built the Allendale water tank and a road that came down to put a 10-inch main. So we had an easement of a road and the land to install the water tank. In exchange, the property owner at the time, was good with it and requested these taps. Well, it's followed along the deeds until now, so Mr. Ringo came in, he bought the property, he says, I wanna build a house, I want a tap. It's like, well, okay, I know you have that deed that says you have a tap, but there's still a process to get an extraterritorial water tap. It has to come before council. You have to fill out the application, which he did. You know, there's all the, through our resolution and application, there's certain things that they have to provide, which they have done. They've requested a 2-inch tap. And the 2-inch tap is equivalent to several 3/4-inch taps. The 2-inch tap was recommended by their plumber because where their property is, it's at the end of, if you're familiar, at the end of Monte Vista, the city limit ends right there. It continues to climb. The water tank is here, they're getting closer to where the water's gonna, level out, and they're not gonna have the pressure. The 2-inch tap is more for the volume, and so that's why the 2-inch request.
Questions from council? Mr. Matei?
I'm working the math, 3/4, how many, he has 5 3/4 taps?
Yeah, 5.
According to deeds, and we've done research to try and see along the way if we in any way, I've done some research, Linda has done a lot of research, and can't find any documentation that we ever issued these taps, so.
Okay, I went to Primero, 5 3/4 taps means 15 quarter divided by 4, that's all like a 4-inch line.
No, so if you picture a 2-inch circle,
Okay,
and you picture a 3/4, 3/4, 3/4, you could fit a lot of 3/4s in
got
that
it,
2-inch.
that's why you're there,
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Just so do the math.
I told you that's all from around.
Ms. Grego, do you have any questions?
Yes, I'm thinking I know where this property's at, but that's right at the very end of the development, that Desperado and then the Vesti property.
Yes.
Correct, you
It's
go up
right
to the
across the
Festies
street.
and Tom and Mary Crest live on this street, so it's behind
Okay.
that area. There's a map provided, but yeah.
South and
It's
east
hard,
of that
that map
location.
is
Yeah.
horrible, you
Yeah.
can't figure it out. I kind of assume such. Okay.
Okay, so
So, I'm not finished yet.
you'll be back, go ahead.
Okay, so is there any chance that we could put that property in the city limits?
As a matter of fact, as part of the application,
Yeah, they
signing
agree
the
to
app, they
it.
agree that if anybody petitions, or if we petition, they agree they will be annexed into the city.
How close it's right across the street from
It abuts the city limits, it's right there, the city limits, the road. You go up, Monte Vista and you hang a right, there's a gate there.
We gotta come back to that.
And,
okay,
property starts there.
okay.
Okay.
You were gonna ask?
No, well, it's a whole different topic.
Oh.
Continue with the water.
No, my only, is there a water tap in a reasonable distance there? Or do we
The
have-
water main is at Monte Vista there at the end, yes. And there's water, sewer, and gas, and electric, and they're planning on utilizing all those. But the water taps have to come before council.
It's good.
So I know their plumber recommended 2-inch, and they're, you know, with what they have, what do you see a 2-inch being necessary to get the pressure up there? That's a big line.
That's a big line.
Any issues, and they have an issue with the 2-inch line, that's a lot of water.
Yeah.
Do
And
you
it's a-
feel they need a
it's a
2-inch
wi-
tap?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good enough
Yeah.
for me.
Mr. Williamson.
Mike, I think I understand that, so they have the 5 3/4 inch water taps.
Mm-hmm.
In lieu of those 5, they're going to, trade those for 1 2-inch?
We haven't come to that yet, with them. They're requesting 2-inch for volume. I have to figure out how many.
For volume or pressure?
I'm sorry, for volume, in other words, how many 3/4 inch or 2-inch actually equals. And then we'll have to,
So they'll be getting a 2-inch and have a remaining
possible.
4 3/4 inch?
No.
No.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Anything else, Mr. Martin?
No?
No. You know, the question is this, that, you know, the resolution says that you need to have 1 tap for each building. And he has 3 buildings that he's gonna put up. Is he going to be required to purchase 3/4 inch taps for the other 2 buildings?
So we had that question, and the applicant is in the audience, if you wanna come forward. His 3 buildings are a garage, a barn, and a house.
Now, the resolution is pretty clear,
Yeah.
you know, as far as additional buildings that they will be required to have, an additional tap.
Hi.
Hi. State your name.
What was the question? Gary Ringo.
My question is that, you know, the resolution states that for every building, you have to have an additional tap. And so you're going to have 1 tap of 2-inch. So does that mean, and that would be a question for Mike, whether or not that you're going to have to pay and apply for 2 3/4 inch taps for the other 2 buildings? That's the question that I think we need.
Qualified.
The garage and the barn. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So, water is it's typical, if you had a lot here and you had a garage and your house, and you had water there, it's typical, it's just 1 tap.
Well, think about it like it does, and I'm not trying to be, you know,
Yeah.
but it does state that for each building in the resolution, that you need to have an additional tap, so I need for you to,
Yeah,
check into that.
Okay.
You need to have an additional tap.
Are you putting water to every building?
The garage, but not the barn.
Okay.
For me.
Okay, the barn.
Yeah. But I guess what you said precedence, like, I mean, so every home and garage in Trinidad is paying
If
for
it's
two
detached, if it's detached, then there's water in it.
Oh, it's detached,
Yeah.
okay.
So it depends if it's attached or detached.
Right.
If it's attached, then it's all inclusive, I would say.
I see.
If it's detached, then that's.
If it's detached, okay.
So that 4-inch tap, does that, Mike, does that 4-inch tap go away?
Well, we're still researching the 4-inch, cause, the whole subdivision up there was the whole piece of property, and then they developed, the reserve, at Fisher's Peak there, and that has an 8-inch tap in it, so I'm trying to run down how those taps were given out, and we can't find anything, so,
I think we just need some clarification, cause,
Yeah.
'cause that 4-inch tap originally was dedicated for a tank. That was up there, and it sounded like you don't have any idea or any thoughts at this point to putting that tank in there, correct?
No, no tank in there, no.
The other question I had, and like I said, just, I don't want anybody else to come back to read the resolution, that a tap that has not been used, so, has there been a tap on this property already?
no.
If that's not, then that takes care of my question. And I'm glad that you're up here, Mr. Ringo. Have you read that resolution number 1328 dated May the 6th, 2008 completely? I would recommend that you do, so make yourself familiar of the resolution pertaining to extraterritorial water taps and, some of the language in there. One of the things that it does say that in times of austerity, if there's a drought or something, that you could get cut off.
Well, I have read that, Mr. Rico.
But I'll
Yeah.
recommend that you read it, so that's familiar
It's
with.
been a while, but yeah, I have read that, I just stated that. Okay.
Other questions?
If it's extraterritorial, not in the city limit,
Right?
then that means the city has to get it to where he needs it.
No,
Okay.
he has to get to where.
But if we were to annex that and make that part of the city, does that change it?
If we were to annex it,
Are you willing to
It
make it
would-
part of the city?
yeah, he signed the application that states that if and when city decides to annex.
And then does he, to convolute this matter, does he have access issues to get to that property with that gated street that we now have there? And do we have to undo that?
Possibly, he can, right now, I think you access up Monte Vista, straight
I
up.
mean, like with the, to get to the.
You know where
line
you
there.
drive, it's where I'm thinking it is, you drive south from the circle. The loop that goes around up to
Mhm.
where Michelle Miles lived, that whole.
Right.
And
Oh,
to get
so
on
you
Monte
go
Vista,
up
you drive
Monte
south
Vista.
from there by, the Knowles house.
Okay.
And
Yep.
and then at some point though, that road curves and it drives between Festies and Cresses, and that road is presently blocked.
Correct.
And
Yes.
that's the current state of it.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
And it does not extend to where you're planning to build, as I understand it. Okay, cause I'm thinking is south and east of that location and higher. That's why we need the 2-inch to get the volume up there where you're going.
Yep, yep.
And I just want it all to be fair to all concerned and reasonable that we're gonna be able to service you with the volume that you need, just a 2-inch line, to meet the requirements as the mayor has suggested about a different tap for, separate buildings.
Right.
And then to gain access to that, where the street has been closed and now may have to be reopened. It's interesting to note, it's a little complicated, and I think there's no doubt that we can work through this. It's just, we gotta do a lot of research, I think, to make it happen, and I would support the idea, one way or the other.
Has that street been vacated, the one you're talking about, or?
It has not.
It has not.
It's not.
It's just.
It's a matter of convenience to the two property owners,
That's
primarily.
And for
And that
discussion
may
down
have
the
to
road
be
at some point.
just inconvenience.
Any other questions? None? None?
Thank you for wanting to be part of our city.
Oh, you're welcome. Happy to be here.
Call the vote, please. Thank you, Mr.
You're
Ringo.
welcome.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Shu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item G, extraterritorial, tap with 2-inch, request by Kelly Rivera at, 37-830, County Road 32.4. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Mike?
Yeah, this is a little bit different. This request came in, from, Mr. Rivera, and I believe he's here, cause you're probably gonna have questions of him also. It's for a water resale, facility. Right, I don't know, right down the road from where he's at, from the industrial park all the way down that county road, 32.8, all the way down to where Almora School is. There's an old line there that's the old army line. When we abandoned that, we cut it off there at Blasie's, basically. Capped it there and put a blow off on it. Occasionally, more often than we really want to, we have to go blow that line off because there's not enough usage on that line. So it's an 8-inch line that sits there with chlorine in it until the chlorine, dissipates. The guys go out and test it. If it doesn't have the chlorine that's suitable for potable water, we have to flush that line. We do it there, we do it out at in Cougar Canyon, we do it several places. So Mr. Rivera saw that and said, well, why don't I put up a water station and you don't have to waste that water, to buy the water and resell it. We discussed a lot of issues of, drought, water resale, how much he's gonna resell, and that's one of the, in your packet, there's an application that for water resale, should you grant him the tap. There's a monthly and an annual estimated amount that needs to be filled out, and he put to be determined. So that's something we have to work through. It's out there, we've got actually 3 resale places now, and ours would be the 4th, ours being the one in Key Hill, thank you.
Yeah.
There's one in Weston, there's one Arts down here, and there's one out at Doctors.
Questions, Mr. King?
I'm not sure, but this line terminates in a public right of way?
Yes, correct. The
The one
8-inch line that
at some point, he's gonna, Mr. Rivera, I'm presuming he's going to purchase some land or something, so as to construct it, or does he want the line to continue to a different
Is
location?
Mr. Rivera here?
He is, he could
Wanna
step
come
forward, but
forward,
it fronts his property.
So he has near access to it?
He has near access, and I'll let him speak to it. He's been to the planning commission, which is one of our requirements, to have a letter from the planning and zoning. While being this is commercial, he had to get a special use permit and everything, so.
Okay. What's your plan, sir?
Well, basically, like you said, I'm just gonna put a water station. I have, about 4 acres right there, and I was gonna take out about 8,000 square foot right off County Road 32.4. The driveway in and out. The 8-inch line is right on the other side of the road, which I'm the last house that's tapped into that line
I see.
right now, and that's why they're flushing it, wasting all that water, so that's what we're doing.
And, thank you.
Okay.
Squeal.
Well, it's pretty hard to determine what your usage,
Well, and
I understand you're a startup business, I understand that. But how many gallons, Mike, would you say is used to flush that line? Give or take, just a guesstimate, close,
10,000.
10,000 gallons a month.
Not quite every month. I think they go out there probably every 2 months. Depends, they test it and get the chlorine residual in it. Depends on the weather. If it's hotter outside, there's a lot of stuff that dissipates the chlorine, so. Yeah.
Okay, so,
when I was,
are you familiar with the capacity of what you would consider a normal tank on the back of people's truck that I see going out, like to Mr. Trujillo's, what is the capacity of a
Anywhere from 100 to 1,000 gallons is what people haul in the back of their truck.
1,000? So if you have 10 customers a month, that would probably exceed the 10,000 that we would use to flush that line, correct? Do you have any idea what your potential client base is?
No, and the only way I could think about how to figure that out is you would take doctors, total water sales, ARPS, divide it by 3, try to get an idea. You know.
We don't have that information.
I don't think
No,
we did.
and when Mr. Rivera came in, he asked me because he's like, I don't know what to put on there, and so I had him put to be determined, so, we'd have to figure, we're just kinda roughly looking at consumption at each of the water stations, and of course it varies, month to month.
Right.
But I was looking at ours as a good comparison, and I think December, it was probably, gosh, I don't know, Karen, I'm sorry. I should have pulled that information, I can get that to you.
So, from the Valdez station, what we anticipated, they anticipated back then was 442,000 gallons a month. Dr. Hill's is 700,000 a month. Up in Weston, 20,000 a month.
And I don't believe any of them have exceeded that
Have they met
in
it?
a month.
Have they met it?
I don't believe so.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure it out.
Sure.
And of course, you know, if there's drought conditions, they're all asked to curtail the water.
Mr. Shu?
Well, the only thing is that, you know, like at your particular station and the stations that have them, they have their own regular customers.
Right.
So you're gonna be divided, I mean, somebody from Weston ain't gonna drive down to get water
Right,
from you.
exactly.
So it's gonna be people mostly from that area down in there only getting it from you. And, well, I don't see any issue with that. The only, I think it's a good deal that we're putting that there because then it keeps the water, so we don't have to flush it, and it probably keeps it running better. And I think it would be an advantage for us on that part for the water. That's one of the comments.
We don't have any plans for extending that line in the future, taking it anywhere that this would affect that?
None that I know of. We've had, you know, certain people with, you know, ideas to develop. We had the tomato, you know, greenhouses that came in, and we definitely went out and showed them that area, and that wasn't what they wanted.
So if we annexed into the industrial park to the east, some of that property, or north, would we ever have any need for extending that water line in to accommodate it, or are lines that are existing already sufficient for expansion?
They're sufficient. Most of our mains are 8-inch. That's an 8-inch that fed all the way out to the Army.
Okay.
We've got a 12-inch main that feeds up through Industrial Park, in there at the intersection of Freedom Road and County Road is where this 8-inch takes off that 12-inch.
Good enough for me.
Williamson?
Mike, where the tap is going to be installed, will that leave any end of line that still needs to be flushed, or it'll be close enough to the end that's sufficient?
There's probably another 500-800 feet to the end. We still probably have to go out there and test that, because it's just sitting in that section. We may have to flush, but not as much.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a good idea. You know, I don't like to see water wasted, and I think this is, you know, useful.
You can.
good to see it used. Currently, we have actually excess capacity of our water. I'm not sure how many people know this, but currently, if I'm correct, we have the capacity to treat and service about 19,000 population, from what I understand. So, the city of Trinidad with the 9,000, of course, the Homey, you got, the prison, and you got Pino Canyon, you got a few people. So we're looking at probably maybe 10 to 11,000 people, so even with that, there's still some excess capacity. So I think that, it's a good thing, and just like I mentioned earlier, just for you to, read that one resolution, like I mentioned to Mr. Green, Mr. Lingo, to familiarize yourself with the issues that might be involved, that's all, okay?
May I ask another
Yes.
question? So when we bring up water restrictions, did any of the wholesalers at the time that we had water restrictions, were they restricted as well?
Yes, we sent them letters, and they were restricted also.
Okay, so they had to lower their
Yep,
consumption.
that is correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. There's no further discussion, call the vote, please.
Who seconded the motion?
I think
Do you recall who seconded the motion?
I have Frank is making the motion.
somebody seconded it.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it was.
Somebody did, I thought it was you.
That's fine.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Shu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Abstain.
Rico.
Yes. Item H, first reading of an ordinance amending the definition of applicant to align the requirement for vetting applicants with those of the Marijuana Enforcement Division pursuant to HB 19-1090. Could I have someone to introduce, please?
I will introduce.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Les, do you have anything you want to cover with us at this point in time?
I don't, Mayor, council members, if you have any questions of me, please feel free. I know that Councilwoman Ogletree had a question. I am not sure how good of a job I did answering that question at the work session, so I sent a follow-up email, but if you have any other questions, I'm free to answer them, but I think this, as the council communication indicates, this is to get it's the alignment of local and state laws. So it is necessary, and we would ask for its adoption.
Mr. Matei, do you have any questions?
No, it seems to be a consistent thought. It can be uniformly what we're talking about.
Squiggle.
Ditto.
Anybody?
I'm good.
Okay. Like I said, there'll be an opportunity when we, when we do have, when it comes up again for the second reading. Call vote, please.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Shu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item I, change order request for the Southside Baseball Fields project. And that is a change order to the tune of $80,142. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Matei.
No, nothing for me, sir.
Grego.
The only thing I'd like to mention is when I was reading through this issue, when we're talking about the change order, and I had Mr. Valentine give me some background information on it. But I just want to point out to people, the source of funds for this, if it's approved, is from the Capital Improvement Fund. And when people don't understand where that money comes from, this is a prime example for people to understand where this comes from. We're investing basically, if I've got Mr. Valentine correctly, we're spending $80,000 to try and ensure that almost $800,000 worth of work is going to be kept intact and unharmed. So I just think people need to see that.
Yeah, and I also think that we should put a sign up and let the people know in the public where that money came from.
I think that's a good
So
idea.
this is something they can see that money came from. It's not sewer underground,
Right.
it's a baseball facility, a
Right.
softball facility that the public sees all the time, so.
Marty, I just have one question. Will this impact the girls softball team at the college at
No,
all?
the work that's being done is on the north side of the
Outside.
bigger fields, so that the
the fluff of the hill and the water doesn't erode down onto our
Right,
fields.
right.
So that retaining wall will stop that, and it'll divert the water and the soil and the shale from ruining the work that we've already done.
And that dirt around that plug is horrible.
Oh, yeah, it's not good.
No.
So we're just trying to keep it away and divert the water, so that it goes towards the dam and it goes towards the other ditch on the east side.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all we're trying to do is protect what we've already done. The fields are gonna be beautiful once we're complete, and just trying to make sure that it lasts.
Good on.
When is the work scheduled to be complete?
April, it will be completed, as soon as they can get the last of the sod down on the other two fields. Two fields are almost completed with sod. The ladies softball field is completed. All we need to do is put the bases in, and he needs to release it for them to play on. That's it.
Might be a good opportunity too to contact newspapers to have that put out as well.
I agree.
You know, one of the things that, any other questions? One of the things that I think bring up a good point about, throughout the community, anytime we do a capital improvement project, that we put up a sign of some sort where I think that's a good idea. The one concern I have is this, and I know we gotta move forward with this, is that, you know, when a project is done, sometimes there are unforeseen things that come up that, cost extra money. And I'm just kinda wondering, being that this was a ground level item that's come up, why that was not recognized in the original bid? Is there any particular reason why that was not recognized?
We knew there was issues with drainage and elevation changes. It wasn't till he shot his elevations that he knew exactly what it was. So the project was already approved, and when he staked everything out and shot his elevations, there was 2 feet of dirt on one side of the field and nothing over here, so it was creating holes. The dirt just piled up against the fence, and that's when he shot. So we knew early on that was the problem. We just didn't know exactly how we were gonna fix it. So he came up with this idea, the most viable way that will last and work for the future, longest lasting solution.
I think, you know, going forward, Mike, it's a good idea that, to take every precaution that we possibly can, especially if they are possible visible impacts to the project of extended money, that we would be able to try to look at it and see, is this going to, you know, crop up and going to cost additional funds? Because I've had some people question that, you know, why, you know, sometimes we've got to throw in another 40,000 in this case.
Well, I learned something from this project. This was my first big project I've ever tackled. So, and I think that getting an engineer on board early might solve some of those situations, is what I learned. They can foresee that if you use an engineer before you go forward with the project. I mean, that's the only thing I can say to stop the unforeseen stuff.
Yeah, that was Mike. Any other questions? None? Call the vote, please.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
McKay,
Yes.
Shu,
Yeah.
Williamson,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item J, authorize mayor to execute letters of support for House Bill 20-1013 concerning modifications to the Rural Jumpstart Zone Act. Senate Bill 20-056 surplus vehicle, military vehicles, highway use if used in firefighting. Senate Bill 20-003 concerning improvement to state parks in connection with making an appropriation. Can I have a motion, please? Second?
Second.
And I'll just kind of, because I'm not sure if all the council has an opportunity to read these, but House Bill, the first House Bill, which is the Rural Jumpstart, one of the major things that I really agree with this, the original Jumpstart program that came around, if there was a business or an industry that wanted to come into Trinidad, it could not compete with anybody else in the state of Colorado. There's a modification in this bill that will change that. That now, the only way that you cannot put that business here is if there was a similar business contiguous to Los Angeles County. So that is a good positive change that I can see. The other thing that I saw in there was, and Trinidad State Junior College right now is the entity that would be taking the application for the business or industry that would come in. Now it could be either the institution or it could be an economic development organization. So those are the two items that I saw that were, benefit this particular program. The second item was the surplus military vehicle use in firefighting. Currently, the way it states is that if we were to have a military vehicle that we had purchased, it could not, for firefighting, it could not be used to go from point A to point B if it had to go on a highway or even the street, especially a highway. So this clarifies that bill where now they'll be able to be used. And then the third item on there was just for the bill supporting the improvements to the state parks, especially with the concern that we have, of course, is with Fisher's Peak. And I'll bring that up later on when I give my opinion. So, but those are the three items that, and the basic facts of it. Questions, Mr. Matei?
No, sir. They all seem logical, consistent with good sense.
No questions.
Nothing?
No.
Okay. Call the vote, please.
Goodall,
Yes.
Grego,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Shu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item 9, council reports, Mr. Matei.
I do. One brief matter. When last we met, we had a citizen make a presentation on behalf of the soup kitchen. And that information was written up in an article, where from, sure, to be exact, which came to the attention of the local parish. And as luck would have it, we met on Tuesday, and on Thursday, the newspaper came out, and that night was a meeting at parish council, of which I'm a member. And it was brought to my attention that the parish actually does a good thing. First of all, let me begin by saying Father Isaac was quick to comment that Catholicism, in particular here, he said it's inherent in human instinct to help brothers in need and sisters. He said it's consistent with our Christian values that we help people in need. So the implication that the church was not doing that was misleading by restricting the soup kitchen's contention at the Holy Family Hall, which was formerly Clinton Hall. So you know what I'm talking about. And information provided to me was this: the lease that the soup kitchen pays for the part of the Holy Family Hall that they use is $1 a year. Okay, that the parish pays for all utilities. And on occasion, that their average for all of 2019 was $415 a month. So you have collateral expense on the part of the parish in supporting the soup kitchen, contrary to that information which was presented.
That was $415, the number?
$415 per month through 2019. You're gonna do it, aren't you?
Yeah.
Thank you. He also, it was brought to my attention that whenever there is salvageable roadkill, they have a mutual agreement with Division of Wildlife, Mr. Holder in particular. And what he does is he brings that which is usable meat from killed animals, and the church, $4,900 worth of utility payments. The church pays Bob's Processing $450 per episode to process that for the soup kitchen's use. So they're contributing financially. It was also brought to my attention that all equipment in there, except for two refrigerators, belongs to the parish. And they maintain and repair all of those appliances and all those utensils, the chairs, the tables, the counters, all of that belongs to the parish which they use. That on occasion when donations to the soup kitchen have run short, the parish steps up to help them fill their needs for other things other than roadkill that the hiatus of donations does not allow them to have. On occasions when they do have roadkill and they don't have any place to freeze or store it, the pastoral center makes the use of their freezers available to the soup kitchen. So the point being is they're a good host and a good partner in the things that are going on over there. And while it was suggested that what's going on is the parish is attempting to revitalize Holy Family Hall, floor coverings, painting, that kind of stuff, and they have to shift some things around. They did not eliminate the storage for the soup kitchen. They repositioned it. There's a new storage, which is actually, as I'm understanding, having been there to see it myself, more consistent with the kind of work that they do and where it is proximity to their efforts. Okay, so it's a good thing. And it says that this has all been necessary for repairs painting, cleaning, stripping, and sealing the floor, and so forth. Of interesting note, if you don't know Father Isaac, I suggest you get to meet him. He has depth of knowledge well beyond what he presents. And we were talking at one point about the issue of homelessness and transient people, and I suggested they were perhaps the biblical lepers that are referenced so many times, you know, and they're offensive to people, but they are those in need, and like that and like that. And imagine me trying to get into a theological debate with two priests.
Wow.
So that wasn't working real well anyway. However, Father Isaac pointed out that in Nairobi, Kenya, 3 million people, okay? That's where he's from. He says, they have Parker boys, homeless people. He said, so, you know, the issue of homelessness does not exist only in Trinidad, Colorado, or Colorado Springs in Fountain Creek, or Pueblo in Fountain Creek, or Denver in City Park. It happens in Nairobi, Kenya. It's massive. The Parker boys, who move from location to location. That all having been said, it opened my eyes to things. The most important, and the point of my comments here, is that contrary to that which was presented, the church is not the enemy of the soup kitchen. The church heavily supports the efforts of the soup kitchen, as is, in the eyes of, or the words of Father Isaac, our human instinct and the exertion of our Christian values. And I just needed to make that be part of the record. And unfortunately, we're from the world's not here to print it, but so be it. Okay.
Good job.
Good job, thank you.
Why do I have to follow them all the time? Dear God.
You want me to move you over?
I figured the disciplinary action.
I just want to make it
Remember?
up. I'm the mathematician, he's the linguist. So we get, no. I was supposed to have a meeting with the Historic Main Street Board today, and they canceled on me, so I don't have a report from them. But the mayor and I both attended a combination meeting with the people from the Colorado Tourism Office. Are you gonna report on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's just, it's amazing to me. I almost felt after that meeting that Trinidad is somewhat slighted with the state of Colorado, because yeah, our numbers aren't great. It's not as big as some of the other welcome centers, but the state of Colorado is getting a benefit from publicizing Trinidad as one of the official welcome centers for the state of Colorado, but they don't fund it. So the main thing coming out of there is we have to rectify that. I think Trinidad deserves that funding, and we're gonna talk about different options we have available for maybe relocating where there's an egress and ingress to the city easily that will entice people to come and use that, but that's the gist of mine. And on a personal note, I just wanted to give my public condolences to Erin Ogletree, lost her father this week, and also Anthony and Lucille lost their mother this week as well.
Thank you.
So, our sincerest condolences.
I'll pass it on to them.
Okay. That's it.
Thank you.
No.
Okay. Rusty?
I have nothing.
Okay.
I attended a meeting of concerned citizens this weekend. The primary concern was homelessness and the problems that affect Trinidad. So there was a lot of heartfelt discussion there, so I very much appreciate Mr. Rico's suggestion for a future work session on that. Look forward to the discussion that will generate. I think a lot of people will be pleased to see that.
On that note, like I said, you know, we have had some discussions on that, and we're going to have another work session. As a matter of fact, that was one of the things when we had our legislative days, you know, that was brought up. That was part of those are some of the talking points that were brought up. But it's going to be an ongoing discussion that we will have to have, because that is something that we really, with homelessness especially, transients, we as a governing body and policing, it's pretty hard to do anything. You can't hardly do anything with them. They can't do anything. And I think that's the biggest issue that I think the general public has, is that they don't quite understand that, you know, our hands are tied in many, many ways on homelessness and the transient issue. Now, as far as any of the crime and stuff that was brought up earlier, that's a different issue. But as far as homelessness and transients, that's something that we will continue to try to educate the community and the citizens of this area of what we can and can't do.
I mean, I do think, I mean, there's some steps we can take to prevent the river from being used as a sewer and people's homes from being broken into though,
And that's crime as far as the homes being broken into, but as far as the river goes, we do have an ordinance in place already that the river at the bottom is a park. We are supposed to not have any camping between the hours of, I think it's 10 o'clock at night and 5 o'clock in the morning. The big problem that exists right now with homelessness is there was a lawsuit, I'm not sure if the ACLU brought that forward, where people can pretty much sleep anywhere they want to. And that was pretty obvious. I was up in Denver last week, and if anybody's been to the Capitol, the steps that you see going up, this was at 7 o'clock in the morning, I had to be at a meeting. And there were 2 people that were laying right by the steps. One was covered in a blanket, and her feet were dangling out, or from her knees down, were uncovered. They were touching the ground. So they can't do anything. So there are some major issues with that I feel with the Constitution, the way it reads about homelessness and transients. But so we'll continue to try to educate the community about that. I attended on the 8th tourism board, and there was a new company in town that's establishing some the new broadcasting and taking their way of business into the community. So that's one thing. The other thing is they wanted to invite Mr. Mondragon to a meeting to see if he will need any assistance in promoting Monument Lake. So that's something that that came out of it as well. There was concern brought about the parking in Trinidad, and that's a discussion that we've had. They brought up again the thing about bike lanes, Mike, just to let you know. Sure. And the other thing they recommended is, I know we've had one work session with them, but they would like to have another work session with council, because they're not sure what council's thought about promotions from the community. So that they would like to have another work session at some point in time. So, you mentioned that, Ms. Grable mentioned that we met with Kathy Ritter, who is the director of tourism from Denver. She came down with 2 other people a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And I did get a letter, an email from her afterwards. And I think her eyes were open to the fact of the things that are happening in Trinidad. And what I'll do is I'll get that email out to Mike so he can be distributed to all of you guys. I sent that to the tourism board so that they would be aware of it. They are aware that, you know, we are needing funding, and that, like you said, we're planning on maybe having something different done with the Welcome Center, and that's a possibility. But she feels like we are moving in the right direction as well.
Weren't you kind of surprised about the amount of money that the state provides for Welcome Center? It's a pittance.
It is. It's a matter of fact, something that we are going to do. As a matter of fact, Mike and I and Rusty are going to Denver tomorrow, actually. Yep. And we are going to be meeting with different people up in Denver. And we have set up a meeting with Senator Esgar. She's on the JBC. She's, I think, chairperson of the JBC. And we're going to probably ask her if there's anything that maybe they can possibly do. So we're gonna be trying to promote that to see if we can get some funding. I don't know if it'll happen this year, but they do have, I do know some interim, for times where they can ask for additional funds. So I'm not sure what she'll tell us, but, we'll bring that up. On the 14th of last week, I was in Denver. Like I said, I told you about the issue with the transients up there. I went to Denver to testify in front of the Capital Development Committee for the fee title for the Fisher's Peak project. And if people don't really understand what fee title means, it means it's a clear to make sure that the project has no issues and that the owner is relinquishing all of her rights, the original owner, to the property. So that was brought up with one of the people that was on the Capital Development Committee, that she saw that it was a very clean project, so she voted in favor of it. So it did pass 5-1 that day. They had another vote for the Capital Development today. I wasn't there, but it passed again at a 5-1. And this Thursday, I will be going, I guess Mike and Rusty will be there with me. I got a message today. I asked the county commissioners. They are going to be there as well. One of them is going to be testifying with me. And with the Senate Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee for everybody's probably read about that $4 million that they're requesting. There's $10 million, but $4 million will be for infrastructure for Fisher's Peak, so that's what we're testifying. So we'll be going up to testify. On the 10th, I attended the World Journal ribbon cutting. They have a new facility on Commercial Street. And on the 15th, I did a chamber presentation. And if anybody wants to know, I think it came out in the newspaper as to what my discussion was about. So I know some of you people, some of you council people attended. So that's what's going on in my world, and we'll have more to present because we're going to the Action 22 tomorrow. We'll be there till Friday, and then next week I might be in Denver again for something else. That being said, Mike, what do you have?
Just a reminder, the work session, I know Mr. Williamson said he couldn't be here, absolutely not, on the 27th, and of course Aaron will not be here, but we tried to reschedule that with Sursa, and it's just tough. So what we're going to do is, hopefully Tom over there will record it for us. We'll get the training. Those that can make it will get the training, and then we'll have those that couldn't watch the recording, and you'll have literature and stuff from that. So it's better to do that more sooner than later, just to get yourself familiar with the do's and don'ts. Then that's all I have, other than a reminder that the Chenoweth Award banquet is this Saturday.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor, council members, I sent you an email earlier in the day, and I want to say that in what would be your packet back in the old days, but what is in part of your email materials for this meeting is this article. Mm-hmm. And this keeps kind of bubbling up. And this deals with the case of Martin versus the city of Boise, which is a case that also kind of keeps coming up. I know that Debbie Wagner mentioned that case at one point in time, and I want to begin kind of where I left off today with having found out that the U.S. Supreme Court denied cert on this case from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So in this thing, I guess Gibson Dunn is the author of this, and I want to say that this article is very critical of the Martin versus City of Boise decision, and says this case will ensure the spread of encampments that threaten public health and safety. And I've heard everything, you know, I want to say something about everything. I won't, but I do want to say that with respect to this case, I what the city of Boise was doing was quite a bit different from what the city of Trinidad does or has done. And the case itself, and by the way, I sent you a copy of it. Boise, the police department, was literally writing tickets to individuals who were sleeping in public areas. And at one point, the Boise ordinance had to be amended because there had to be a showing. They have several homeless shelters there, and there had to be a showing that the person had been turned away from a homeless shelter. Anyway, that's a digression. So, but the point is, you could only write a ticket if they otherwise could demonstrate that they couldn't stay at one of the homeless shelters. In any event, they were literally jailing people at various points in time. That is, jailing homeless people for the act of being homeless. And so, excuse me, to many people in the points earlier, made, and that is, you don't want to criminalize homelessness or be the governmental entity that is perceived as trying to criminalize homelessness, and that is kind of what this was. And I think this article is kind of a histrionic view of this decision, that is Martin versus the city of Boise. But it goes to the point that you were making earlier, Mayor, that it is very hard to regulate homelessness. And of all the things that you want to do or you can do, you don't want the lawyers involved in trying to have you legislate homelessness away. Because the way you do that is essentially to criminalize, like if you're going to write citations, if you're going to make it illegal for homeless people to congregate in certain areas, to panhandle. I know we've had that conversation. All the things that are associated with homelessness that do constitute freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of all those kinds of things. And so this, if it comes up again, just know that it has been resolved and it's kind of a settled issue.
Does that go back then to their district court or after appeals?
Well, I don't know where it will go. I don't know what will happen with the case from here. I do want to say, though, I told you that I was going to update the case, and in the article it is discussed and cited as 902 F 3rd 1031, and there was a further decision cited at 920 F 3rd 584. It was kind of a clarification of the earlier opinion that they had. So there was a subsequent decision by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. It doesn't change the holding. But what was your question, Mayor? I'm sorry.
From the decision the court said they were denied.
Hard to say if it's done.
It's got to go back.
Right, but there isn't active pending litigation like there is in the case that involves the city of Trinidad. One other point, and it was quite interesting because the petition for cert was filed about April of 2019, and before the Supreme Court denied the petition, there were about 8 states that had filed amicus briefs. They were wanting to be heard if the petition had been accepted. There were 34 California counties. There were all kinds of places that were saying, if you take this, Supreme Court, we want to be heard on the subject. Maybe that was why they said no. But it was quite interesting. And so you do have a copy of the opinion in the email if you want to read it.
Good. Man, he just got thinking. When I was in junior high, being Italian as I am, I was going to write a term paper on the mafia. And that just goes forever, okay? And I don't know why I said that, except that to talk about homelessness.
Right.
It's massive. Yeah. And there are so many things that have a direct... Do you think people choose to sleep at the steps of the Capitol? Sometimes they don't have an alternative, and that's the best they can do. I'm sure that they're interested in having a better quality of life. And except for a few bad decisions, we are all close to being homeless.
Right.
Okay? But as the gap between the haves and the have-nots get wider, you're gonna have more people displaced. When the burden of education and student loans gets so massive, people are not gonna be able to find and educate themselves to get better jobs so that they can be, and I know, I read a story recently about a lady who was a letter carrier in Spokane. And she didn't make enough that she and her 2 kids were living in a car. And she had what would be a good job. She was a letter, she worked for the post office, for the federal government. And then a lot of these people have addictions, okay? They're in ill health. Some of them have problems with mental health.
Right.
And I don't mean to politicize what I'm about to say, but the Mental Health Systems Act of 1980, MHSA, was United States legislation signed by Jimmy Carter and provided grants to communities for mental health centers to help people who had mental issues and maybe help them guide themselves through life so they can get jobs, so they can get work, so they wouldn't be homeless. Then here we have, in 1981, comes Ronald Reagan. And he decides to rescind all that.
Yeah.
And in effect, released millions of people who have mental concerns, who are doing the best they can to survive 20-degree weather and snow. And I'll get off my soapbox here in just a minute, because more and more, I know homeless people can be offensive. They're hard to look at, because it's like looking in a mirror of our society. And we have to think broad scheme about what we're going to do to help people in true need. Okay, rather than kick them out of Fountain Creek, where are they gonna go?
Right.
If they're not in Springs, they're in Pueblo. If they're not in Pueblo, they're here. And I remember years and years ago, and I hate to speak ill of the deceased, but I had a district judge one time tell me, Trooper, take him to New Mexico and drop him off at the line. I'm driving this guy up to the state line because I'm doing what the district judge told me. And he said, I don't think he can do that. I said, neither do I, but I'm not gonna tell him that. I took him to New Mexico and said, Albuquerque's that way. You know, and we can't keep doing that. We have to be human instinct and Christian value. I love Father Isaac. Enough said about that, and I'm sorry.
No, and I just want to say one other thing, and that is regarding the crime statistics, and I promise I won't go, launch on that, but don't believe everything you read. And we are all in this together. I mean, those here, and we're batting for the same team. And I assure you, we're doing everything we can. But homelessness, drug addiction, alcoholism to the point of making a person homeless, absolutely, they all dovetail. And I just want to say it is exasperating, but if you see a crime occurring, like what you think is a drug transaction, you might want to report it. If you don't want your house to be burglarized, and I don't want that either, but you might want security cameras and a little bit of, not saying that people don't do that, but personal responsibility on one's end to ensure that doesn't happen. But it's all related. And anyway, we're all on the same team. I just want to remind everybody of that. But that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, I'd recommend that, because you're concerned, you've met with them people, is get some time, go talk to Les about the do's and don'ts of the homeless issue and transit, and he'll enlighten you some of the discussions that have come up in the legal aspects of the Constitution.
And that's one of the meetings we asked for and we have while we're up in Denver is with the Attorney General, and to talk about the lawsuit, the money, what's going on, to help take steps to address some of these problems we're having. And that was important with this trip to the Capitol for me, that we get back in that office and keep putting the pressure, asking, what's happening, where's the lawsuit, what's it gonna mean, where are we set in this, yeah.
And like I said, you were talking about the opioid, but it comes hand in hand, because we're always gonna talk to them about, the interdiction of drugs and all that stuff, the crime and all this stuff, so, we're, just to your point, Mr. Gonzalez, we are looking into several avenues as to what we can maybe do.
I understand that, but I find it hard to believe that people don't choose their decisions in life. Alcoholism is a choice that's made.
Oh, yeah.
I have too been homeless for several months, and I did not have a car. I did not go out, and I did not commit any crime to my community whatsoever. I went out and I got a job, and I went out and got a car, and I did not attack children in a park. I didn't shoot needles and put them in the river. We drink from that river. We have vegetables that come out that river that come into our farmers market that we give out to the community. It's a public health crisis. It's a crisis for our children in our community.
You have a question?
I just add one final thing. I mean, I understand that it's a human problem and we need to have compassion, but I think it's also important that that we can look at the criminalization, I would think, of leaving drug paraphernalia where children can reach that, and human waste that can affect that.
I mean, these are questions we'll bring up.
Yep.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
First and second, Mr. Williamson and Mr. Matei. Call vote?
Goodall?
Yes.
Grego?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Williamson?
Yes.
Rico?
Yes. Barbara, do you have anything you need me to say?